Brian,
Hi,
what's up?
doing well. Yourself?
Good. I'm excited for this. One, because I've wanted to do this with you for some time, but also this is my first local podcast.
Are
I did not have to get on a plane to record.
you been doing that? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought maybe like Zoom or something.
No, eventually I'll probably do some remote, especially with people that I might not know, but I've been doing them in person so far with the people that I've done. So I was in Florida. Originally got I think about 5 episodes down there. Attempted to do one in DC, and now I'm back here. And it felt so good knowing that I just had to walk over here
Mm-hmm.
and was able to.
And go up 8 flights of stairs.
Yeah. Oh yes, yes we did. That was not the most pleasant thing about this is going up all
Not
those
my
stairs.
fault that the elevators are busted, but
Yeah. When you told me that, I was like, oh my god, please tell me he's joking, because you live like one floor below the top floor.
yep,
And I was like, I'm gonna have to carry all this equipment
yep.
up here. Luckily, I mean, and you might be able to see this from the video, is that you do have a lot of your own equipment
Yep.
for this, which I appreciate, and I like the fact that you have it. But it also, I'm also kind of bitter because it's a lot better than the equipment I have. So, so that's the only drawback from this. I'm looking at this arm with this mic on it, and I'm like, oh yes, ooh,
One of these days.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be
perks of
me.
being an aspiring voice actor trying to do
Hmm.
it. So everything's now home studios.
Hmm.
So I get to do everything at home now.
Hmm.
So I just made a little corner in my place,
Yeah.
soundproofed it as much as possible, and then just got a nice mic, a nice arm, and boom.
Yeah, and literally boom, because it sounds amazing.
Yep.
Like usually, I'm having to like listen and hear if we're close to the mics, if somebody's getting a little too far away, and judging that. This, I'm comfortable and I can hear
Mm-hmm.
everything. So just lets me know I got to step
Yeah,
my game up.
picks up pretty good. Like we can
Hmm.
kind of move around too. We're not fully just on
Hmm.
the mic. I can't move at all, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. And before we begin the My Favorite Parts podcast, I do want to address something with the audience. Um, this is, I think, episode number 6. I should probably be saying those
Cool.
when we do.
My lucky number.
Yeah,
Nice.
we should. I should probably be saying that when I'm doing the episodes. But hopefully, this is going to be the first episode that I've actually gotten some video from. I every episode that we've done so far, I've recorded the audio and I also try to record the video. And I don't know how, some way, somehow, I've had my phone die. I've had somebody else's phone die. I've had it be the file size be too large, and I have yet to get the video for one of these podcasts, so where I can post some video and stuff like that. So I went through the trouble. Well, not the trouble. I had to do it eventually, and it's probably for the best. But I actually bought a video camera for this, so you're probably watching this right now, and it looks like it's still on. It hasn't died yet.
Nice.
So hopefully we'll be actually to get some video for this and post it. So it's not because I don't want you to see my face. I'm not a fake urban legend. I promise Brian is not just me making a voice.
No.
I'm not a ventriloquist. Um, so hopefully we'll get that out, and it'll be smooth sailing going forward after this. So I'm happy for this, and I appreciate you doing this with me. And ladies and gentlemen, with that officially, this is My Favorite Parts, the podcast. My name is João da Silva, as always, and I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Bryan Adams. No relation to the singer.
None.
Do you get that a lot?
Oh, all the time.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Every middle school teacher I had would like sing some type of Bryan Adams song, and they walked in.
Oh.
One of the bars we went to all the time back in Tampa, Florida.
Hmm.
As soon as I walked in, the bartender, and we're in heaven, Bryan Adams, get over here, and have my beer ready for me right away. So I'd be like, nice, thank you.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine. I mean, it's tough growing up with my name because it's hard for
I mean,
people to
yeah,
say
it
it.
would. You just call me John, call me
Yeah.
John, and that's what I thought your name was for however long until
That's
like
a lot.
finally they're like, oh, his actual real name is Drow. I'm like, oh, why the hell have I been calling him John the entire time? Just
Yeah.
like, well, people can't pronounce it most of the time, and I'm pretty sure I screwed up quite a bit by saying your name.
At this point, as long as I can tell you're talking to me, I'm
Yeah.
good. You know. But that's true. Growing up, um, from like kindergarten up to like I think maybe high school, everybody used to call me John because it's just so much easier for them to call me John than to try to like fumble my name and stuff.
Yep.
And then I got to high school and I was fed up. I was like, no.
hmm
And this is what you're gonna call me. But I can imagine like if it was difficult for me, imagine having the name of like
famous person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because nowadays, if I'll be in a workshop with my
Hmm.
voice acting stuff, and like the teacher will know the reference right away, but
Hmm.
sometimes I'm like, yeah, I can now tell like what generation you are if you get the joke or not, because we'll have some younger people in there. They're like, I don't, Bryan Adams, what's that? And we're just like, you're too young. Sorry, you don't get it.
Sit down, young man.
It's like, oh, you're too young. Oh, I'm sorry. While me and the teacher are just laughing.
But it's also like a chance to educate them
Mhm.
also and stuff like that
And
because he has some good
yeah,
songs.
usually I'll bring up a like just recently one of my coworkers was like, I was just watching a Family Guy episode and Stewie was in love with Bryan Adams, and I was like, yes, I
Hmm.
remember that episode. It's literally Stewie falls in love with
Hmm.
their next door neighbor. I forgot his name, the one that's in the wheelchair. Their
Oh
daughter.
yeah.
He falls in love with, so he makes a whole like music video of him singing everything I do it for you.
Hmm.
And then Brian, the dog, at the end is like, so you can get this story. It's like, no, I'm in love with Brian Adams now, and just like it was the most beautiful thing. I was like, oh yep,
Hmm.
yep, that's what I get now. And so like she's 24,
Hmm.
so she'd never heard who Brian Adams was until that, and she's like, oh my god, like everything kind of clicked for her about my name and the jokes that me and your brother would do all the
Did,
time.
did you like? Could you see her mind going into the Twilight Zone?
A little bit. 'Cause you
Okay.
just saw just like that those wires connecting all of a sudden now. Like,
Hmm.
oh. And then I figured out like, oh my god, you're like, so Stewie's in love with you. And I'm like, oh my god, yeah,
That's
pretty
me.
much.
That's me.
Yep, that is me. Everything I do it for you. It's, yeah,
I mean, at this point, you could probably tell her it really was you, and she wouldn't know the
yeah.
difference.
Right.
You know,
Uh,
she only has the internet at her
I
disposal.
also have had a friend who got married that pretty much forced me to sing everything I do it for you. I luckily snuck out of that
Good,
though.
good, because that would and they wanted just you to sing it at the wedding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like not at the or not at the ceremony, at
Oh,
the
okay.
reception. Yeah, you singing like that's the bride walking down the aisle song.
Mhm.
Like yes, me singing.
Like, yeah.
That'd be fantastic. And there's no love like your love. Yeah, no, I'm not. No, I'm
Yeah,
good.
no.
No, I'm good. That's about as much as you're gonna get out of me.
That's more than I thought we were gonna get. So
True.
living the
True.
dream. But that brings us to our first part of my favorite parts. With every episode, we go over the same things as far as with every guest. We'll go over some of your favorite parts that you provided me, and then we'll go through our favorite part of the week, and we'll close out with some questions that we have for you a
Cool.
little bit later on.
Uh-oh.
So if you're ready and you're ready to knock these out of the park,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and we'll start.
Cool.
So the first thing that you brought up to me for my favorite parts is going to be something that I'm passionate about too.
Mhm.
Well, actually, two of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah,
is
I know.
passion.
It was like things are passionate. Like, well, obviously, like,
Yeah.
let's throw these two in there.
So it's going to be weird because I'm like, man, am I interviewing Brian or is Brian interviewing me?
Yeah, it's for sure gonna be one of those.
Yeah. But the first one's going to be anime.
Hmm.
And if you'd like to tell the audience a little bit about your passion for anime and what your favorite part is.
Yeah. So back in 95, 96, 97, when I lived in Wisconsin, before school.
Packers fan.
Yeah, oh yeah, go Green Bay. Fuck Aaron Rodgers though. You can say that right there. Before school was Gargoyles, so I would watch that all the time before catching the bus. And then if I woke up early enough, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll just watch whatever was before it. Before it was Sailor Moon, so I'm like, whatever. I'm watching it. I'm an 8-year-old kid. I'm gonna watch whatever's in front of me, and loved it. Great show.
Mm-hmm.
Got into it, and then on every Sunday morning, kind of same thing. Or Sunday morning, Saturday morning was one of the cartoons I watched all the time. Don't remember what it was, but the one before it, which if I woke up early enough, was Dragon Ball. Not Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, the first one
the
where he's
original?
where he's a little kid. And like I just like, what is this? And like I liked watching it, and then there was only 13 episodes at that time. Then fast forward to 8 years, and then Toonami comes out and they're showing Dragon Ball Z, and it's like, what? I remember watching Dragon Ball. What's the Z thing? Is this the same thing? And kind of like start watching that. And this is when before Funimation took over.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just they only had like the extremely censored version, and they only had 50 episodes of when They went to Namek and Frieza came, and like then it would just go back to episode 1 after like 52 episodes, and that was it. Then finally Funimation came out and bought the rights to Dragon Ball Z, and boom, new episodes came out. And I remember being like in 8th grade and just like all of me and my friends just what just finally like there's new episodes, like the story, the fighting, oh my god. And like everywhere you went, and just shirts and merchandising everywhere, just and like the bootleg shirts that like Funimation didn't make these shirts, but it didn't matter. Like you had to button up like Super Saiyan 4's Goku everywhere, all over the button up shirts. I'm just like, yeah. And that was kind of like the introduction of the anime for me. And from there, just like anything that Toonami came out with, I would watch, from your Gundam Wing, from your Trigons to Outlaw Star. And then from then on, just kind of like kept on trying to watch and expand as much as possible I could with it. Even like one of my favorite movies when a kid was Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It still holds up nowadays. But Hayao Miyazaki, who's Studio Ghibli, uncredited, worked on it, and he had such a horrible time working on this movie that he almost stopped making movies, basically.
Really?
Yeah, because he came over from Japan here to America to work in this American company making this movie, and it was super stressful. Like he was like, so our interview with he's like every 15 minutes he's smoking a cigarette outside. He was just so stressed out, and he was like almost done doing it,
which is crazy because he's so regarded now.
Yeah. And so finally, he's like, if I'm gonna do this, I need full control over it. I can't have someone telling me what to do, which is, he made his own studio after that. So it's like, interesting, and like that just kind of pushed him in and saw how bad us Americans organize things. And he was like, nah, I'm done with people talking over me, telling me how I should be creative. Like, now I'm just gonna do my own thing.
That's awesome. And thank God he did, because he came out with so many things that, even recently, I think he was it the Boy and the Heron,
the Bear. Yep.
And I remember that was regarded like highly, and I think it was like up for awards or won a couple things.
Yep.
So even to this day, to be making things. But to piggyback what you said off of Dragon Ball Z, I remember the one thing I remember about Dragon Ball Z when I was growing up is that I couldn't watch it. We at that point we didn't have like all these different companies that do like cable, satellite, and stuff. Like, I mean, they had them around, but our particular house we didn't have them. We had some like company called like American Cablevision and stuff. So we literally had like maybe like 40 channels and stuff. And Cartoon Network was not one of them.
Yeah,
I used to be furious because I would go to school and everybody would be talking about Dragon Ball Z, and I'm like, Dragon Ball what?
Like, what are you guys talking about? This sounds so cool.
Yeah, and then after that, eventually getting older, I got into it and stuff. But I can only imagine how it felt like being in there in the prime and like watching the episodes coming out, like probably you did.
Yeah, it was great because like at the same time, like being that kid having to wait every single day to watch an episode is like, oh my god. Nowadays, like we know it was once a week for Japan back in the day, or just how things are being shown now is an episode a week. But even back then, one a day was, how do you know what happens next? And especially with a show like Dragon Ball Z, where it's like
it's a slow burn,
where nothing can happen in 10 episodes. And then finally, like that one that happens, like, oh my god! And if you missed that episode, though, there were no reruns. You had to wait the entire like thing to go around again. So you're just like, wow. And the internet like was around, but it wasn't where you could download an episode or watch it from someone type of scenario. So hopefully one of your friends recorded it for you so you could watch it type of thing.
Yeah, those. Eventually, I got into. We upgraded our fucking cable, and eventually we got Cartoon Network, and I remember Toonami, and then Adult Swim at night. Yep. Yeah, those used to be the best. I used to watch Inuyasha, Full Metal, the first one that came out, even though the second one is better.
100%.
Yeah, and some other ones that I can't think off the top of my head. But bringing up anime and stuff like that is, and I know your vast knowledge of anime and what it encompasses. Is there like a particular anime that sticks out to you, or even like a particular moment that you were like that you maybe had like an aha moment or something?
Not so much an aha moment, but growing up, like definitely all the like the shonen shows, the fighting ones. Being a young boy, I was like, yes, I gotta watch all these. So your big three, your Naruto, your One Piece, your Bleach.
Yeah.
And One Piece I didn't even pick up on until episode like 520 was out. Then I finally was like, oh, let me go ahead and watch this. And that was a blur of a week that went by because I watched
Mm-hmm.
all of them in that time. But nowadays I try to like expand and try to look at the different genres that are
Mm-hmm.
out there. One that I never would have watched if I didn't hear from some other people of how good
Mm-hmm.
it was Your Lie in April.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if you've seen it, but this
Mm.
was one that it's just a slice of life type of thing. It's this piano prodigy of a kid that was 10 years old that got trauma because his mom basically was dying, and she wanted to make sure that he would be successful in his life to playing the piano. So she was rigorous with his training, and like he couldn't go outside, he couldn't have a cat because it might scratch his fingers and like injure his hand, so he couldn't do anything. She would beat him all the time if he wasn't good or he messed up, stuff like that. So he just became traumatized from this woman. Finally
Mm-hmm.
she ended up passing away, and he hasn't like touched the piano since then, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And he, in the very first episode, he talks about how like he sees the world in black and white, like
Mm-hmm.
in piano keys and everything. Then one of his friends kind of forces him to help his other friend on like a double date type of scenario. So he has like one guy friend, one girlfriend. One of the girlfriends like, come on, like he wants me to go with his new girlfriend. You come with me so we can at least talk together while they're talking. He's like, fine, like I'll do it. So he goes there, and as he's kind of like wandering around, he sees a girl, and all of a sudden, everything comes in color.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just hits that instant attraction, fall in love, and this girl plays the violin,
Mm-hmm.
and she knows who he is. It's one of those things where like anyone in that community of like artists,
Mm-hmm.
especially played an instrument, knew who this kid was, and they also knew that he hasn't done any competitions, hasn't done anything
Mm-hmm.
since 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and this actually happens to be the girlfriend for the other guy friend that he's actually
Oh.
saying that night. So he was very like, wow, I am feeling so much attraction for her, but at the same time, oh, my guy friend is after her. Like, no, okay, I'm
Yeah.
good. Things come around to where like she kind of forces him to start playing again because she plays violin with an accompanying pianist,
Mm-hmm.
and hers pretty much quit because she wouldn't follow the score structure.
Mm-hmm.
She would do her own little flair on everything, and that ticked off her pianist because she's she's following the score,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, what are you doing? So her pianist finally left, and so she has a competition coming up, so she asked him to come in, and he just is going through the trauma of playing the piano again
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't hear what he's playing. Like it just blocks out all the sound of what
Mm-hmm.
he is playing, so he doesn't know if he's playing good, but he can memorize the score, and that's just what he does. But he's very robotic. There's no like soul behind it. It's just he's just doing what the score says.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the series is basically just trying to him open up and to be him in the piano playing. And at the same time, she's pushing him as well to find this artistic flair that's inside of himself that she knows is there too. And of course, obviously, it's a slice of life, and things happen. They're all 13, 14 years old. They're going through their puberty, and they're figuring out their feelings and everything. So there's so many times where I cried in that show,
Mm-hmm.
and just sadness. And it was just so beautiful with the music playing on because they're playing Beethoven, they're playing Bach, they're playing Chopin. It's just like it's all these great things that they're playing.
I don't know how that
Yeah,
happened.
that was interesting because you have it plugged in there.
Oh, I should probably unplug that. And these are the things that happen like when you're knee deep in the.
It's always
Oh,
Maggie screwing
right.
things
Mm-hmm.
up.
She had her episode. She doesn't get another one.
Done.
But
Yeah. So
mhm,
and Get Done,
mhm,
great series. I immediately recommended it to your brother,
mhm.
and after the next day, I got a text from him just bitching me out because he's cried so many times. I was like, I told you. I'm like, what episode are you on? He's like 12. I'm like, prepare to cry some more. He's like, God damn you.
Get another box of tissues.
Basically, it was people don't think about that for anime.
Yeah.
They think about Sailor Moon, they think about Pokemon, they think about Dragon Ball Z.
Mhm.
They don't see that side of anime.
The heavier moment ones, because like I 100% agree with you. Most
Mm-hmm.
people think of anime, they think of childish, they think of,
Yep.
oh, you're watching like kid cartoons, when some of them, even the mangas,
Yeah.
deal with like actual, like, some, you can find some that deal with like heavy issues and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, that you wouldn't think to think that would come from like a cartoon or from like
Yep.
a comic or
Yeah.
anything. You would think they would be from like live action
Yeah.
drama and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
It 100% could have been a live action show. Like
mhm,
there's no superpowers. No, it's just a boy who plays a piano, a girl who plays a violin, and they're two friends.
Mm-hmm.
Getting from middle school to high school type of
Yeah.
age, and it's just like that what they're feeling and what's going on in their lives and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's 100%. People just don't see it. That's why so many times when you get people like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
watch cartoons," it's like I do, but it's not. It's not like that. Like it's just like an actual live action show
Mm-hmm.
where there's different genres of it,
Yeah.
and you can find a flavor that you're gonna get into, that you're gonna hate, that you're gonna like. There's romance.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of romantic ones that are very, very geared towards like women audiences, and I saw one of them and I was like, holy crap, this is so in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And it really gets into the character developments of why they like this person over why they like this other person, and why this girl is so headlong in love with this one person and will do anything for them. And then tragedy happens, or something,
Yeah.
or another person gets added to the mix, and all of a sudden, drama, conflict, and it's just like any other show out there that just it's drawn.
Yeah. If you just look at it as like what it is, which is an art form, it's easy to get into.
Yeah.
And there are some that I suggest to people when they try to see if they can get into it.
Full Metal.
That's the first one
Full Metal, always Full
That's
Metal.
the
That
first
is
one that I always refer to people.
the best opener anime. I feel like they're like, hey, see if you like it, because it's serious moments. There's some action moments. There's some magic-y moments, but then there's also some real moments of like crap, family drama and values. Then there's also some of that lighthearted humor that kind of comes in every once in a while to break up some of the tension that's there.
Yeah. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for an opener if you're trying to get into anime, the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood
Yeah.
is the best way to go. That's the easiest way to get into it.
Now the other Full Metal Alchemist is also good, but the Brotherhood follows the manga, which is what it's based off of, and the manga is just really good. So yeah.
No, and it follows it so faithfully. It doesn't no fillers. The original one, like you said, I think maybe like 3/4 of the way.
Yeah.
It veers off into its own story.
They caught up with the manga, so they're like, well, we can do filler, or we can just be like, hey, we're gonna do our own route, and they talk, and like, hey, we're just gonna do our own route, and we're gonna end it at a certain point too. Like, hey, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's what they did. Like, it was still good because they actually most filler will just add random nonsense and go nowhere. This they added, random nonsense, but they actually edited it and tied it all together too, so it actually felt like a complete story a little bit.
Yeah, which is weird because if you never read the actual manga, which I did, you would have never known that.
You'd never know exactly.
Yeah. Until the other one came out, and you're like, what the
hell
fuck is this?
Like, wait, these first 10 episodes are the same one as the other one. Like, why? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
I thought this was a sequel. No, I 100% agree with that and have like the same sentimentalities, especially with not just the anime but even manga and stuff. Because I've read some mangas that have like impact aside from just doing the regular shonen ones and stuff. So, and no, thank you for bringing that up because it's always good to like introduce people to it and to show love for the people that watch anime now and stuff already. But that ties us into the next one that we're going to talk about, which is something I'm also passionate about.
Number 2.
Yeah. And that is going to be video games.
Yeah.
Something that similar to anime, people might have a predetermined like notion about it because it's video games. You're playing something.
Especially nowadays, like it's Call of Duty. That's everything. Like, oh, you play Call of Duty or Fortnite. It's like, and there's other games than those.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like having my hard drive to use.
Yes.
So
when your updates are 100 gigabytes, you're like, what?
When you buy a new system and the first game you pop on it is
it's the only one that
you
can put on.
What are you gonna do at that point? Like I feel like you need like 2 PlayStations.
Yeah.
One specifically for Call of Duty.
See, this is why you buy the external, so you have all the space.
Yeah, touche. I do need to get an external again because mine is
again.
Yeah, I had one before. But
oh, that's all right. That's all right.
Fucking UPS. Thanks for losing my fucking PS5. I'll forever.
Well, they didn't lose it. They just delivered it to the wrong place.
Yes. Oh yeah, touche. They delivered it to somewhere that they can't even tell where it's at and stuff. And the weird thing is that even though I haven't had it since I think it was like October. I've yet to see the account or anything
pop on or anything.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's just sitting somewhere randomly in a box in the middle of Seattle.
It's a possibility.
Waiting for somebody to open it like a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And then, oh my god, it's a Switch.
Some
and
homeless
a
might have just picked it up and threw it in the river or something.
That even might be playing on the TV that he doesn't have.
That's very true.
Yeah.
He thinks he has.
He's playing. But as we digress,
yes.
Tell us a little bit about.
So growing up, we had a Nintendo. My mom had a little daycare, so a lot of kids would come over, and so we got a little Nintendo. We had like 3 games: Super Mario, obviously, Duck Hunt, oh yeah, and then Zelda. One of the Simpson games that none of us could beat. We're all like 6 years
Is
old.
it the one that was in the arcade, like similar to that, or
Not the
different?
arcade one. It was actually kind of like a story with levels and
Oh
everything, but it
wow.
wasn't like a beat 'em up arcade one. It was a different one. And Final Fantasy. I actually played one of the original, like the original Final Fantasy in Nintendo. I had my little Game Shark connected onto it. Infinite money. I was not grind. I was not going to be 6 years old grinding for money. Like what?
No, I do miss cheats. I do miss cheats.
Just wonder. I literally at that point like I memorized the code. So if you ever use Game Genie or Game Shark, any of those, you got to input like basically a data code into it, and it's usually just random letters or numbers. I memorized it. It was 2 lines and I memorized it. It was like, yeah, 16 characters. I remember I put it in so many times. And yeah, I loved playing that game. Fantastic. I even had like, the maps for the dungeons too that would be constantly, which were just ripped apart now because I used them so many times. And then from there, like got a Sega Genesis, played some Sonic, loved it. Mortal Kombat, loved it. And then from there I kind of like skipped a generation in a sense. Didn't have a Super Nintendo, so never played any of the other Final Fantasies.
Really? Wow.
And then I remember finally moving into Florida.
So the first Final Fantasy you played was for the Nintendo. So you played one of the original ones.
Yeah, so I played one.
How the hell did you?
Like I
Were
still
they
have
even-
it.
Really?
Yeah, I still have the cartridge for
How
it and
did
everything.
you get? How did you get it? Were they selling that in America at the time?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It was the one that was brought into America and everything.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if I, for some reason in my head, I think the original that came out in America was like Final Fantasy 3, but then
So yeah, so you
I
had
remember that was
Final Fantasy
6.
1,
Yeah.
and then it was 4, which was 2, and then
Oh,
6
okay.
was 3 type of scenario.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because they skipped and everything. And then finally like got a PC, and then Final Fantasy 7 was out. And I was like, oh my god, yes, I remember playing this first one back when I was, 6 years old. Put it in and was playing it, and that just like, wow. So cool. I remember like one of the big moments that still stick in my head was summoning Odin for the first time in a battle, and just seeing him just come out of this dark, shadowy cloud on his horse. Sleipnir just comes out, he just holding Gugnir and just ready to just throw it up in the air, come down, and just remember just seeing like the graphics and everything, which just like blew my mind and how
Which
it
at the
was.
time was
Oh, yeah, I know,
insane.
exactly. And just like, and that was like big. And story, a lot of it threw over my head. I think it was 13-ish at the time. Like, I understood, but I didn't really get the nuance of a lot of things. And it was just great to play. And I probably have played that 15 times by now. And then, like, getting the N64 and being like, oh my god, like same thing fantasy, being in 3D and moving a camera around, like while you're traversing. And that just kind of like really opened my mind of like what games could be now. It was getting more realistic. There were polygons that like, you could barely see what anything was, but it was just like, wow, we used to have just little sprites.
It's weird because I even remember I never played 7, or at least the full one, but the first probably one of the first games that I bought myself was 8. Final Fantasy 8, and I remember just reading, because back then we didn't have the internet hardcore like we did.
Yep.
So all the gaming news we had was like from like EGM,
Tips
Game
and Trick,
Informer.
Nintendo Power, all this fun stuff.
And I
Yeah.
remember reading all the articles and seeing the clips for it, like from the pictures, and thinking, oh, I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be so good. Like I gotta get it. And the graphics were awesome.
Yep.
And like it's weird seeing how mind blown we are now. Like I mean, Rebirth just came out. And then, but thinking back to like how we were so like mind blown by the graphics back then.
It's unreal. Like, oh my god, I can control him. I can move around. I can jump. I can do all these new things. I was like so like unheard of. So cool. Now I mean, you're like we're playing Helldivers together, dropping into a randomly generated world in a sense, and just like killing tons of realistic looking robots or bugs. It's just like. This is just a 30-year gap right now. It's like, man, this is a little
Really
different.
And then so you said you got the PC after like PlayStation and all that. How many did you have after?
So from that point on, I got a PS2. I was in 8th grade. I worked 1 day a week, Saturday mornings, and saved up my money. And PS2 came out Christmas season. Christmas just passed, and I'm just every day I would wake up and I would call all the stores. Hey, do you have any PS2s in stock? Hey, do you have any PS2s in stock? Hey, do you have any PS2s in stock? And the Target, yeah, we got a couple, but we can't hold any. I'm 14. I can't drive.
Not legally.
There's no Uber or Lyft at this point. So I literally like banging my sister's door, and her boyfriend was over. I'm like, dude, Target has PS2s. Fucking them there. So he gets clothes on, get in the car, driving to Target, which from Point Siena to Kissimmee Target, it's a good 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're like, like don't ever gonna get it. Like got there, we're like, hey, just see any PS2s? Like, yeah, we still got 2 left. I'm like, sweet. Pulls one out as like I'm paying for it. Someone else came and got the other one.
Really?
And it was just like, oh, we just got it. And like I bought Armored Core 2 and then I bought Final Fantasy 9. So since it was backwards compatible, it was like, boom. I went back and got like the other Final Fantasy that I haven't played. Because at this point too, I didn't play 8. I didn't play 7 on the PlayStation. I only played it on the PC as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got 9 right away. I didn't even have a memory card. Because I didn't know you needed memory cards. I didn't have a PlayStation. So I'm like, so I get home and I'm playing and they're like, I need to save your memory card. I'm like, save my what are they talking about? Oh, I need to buy that as well. And being home, I can't go back to Target and get a memory card. Now I have to wait till I'm able to like go back to Target, which was like a week away till my mom can drive me to it.
Yeah.
And so like I just kept playing the same part over and over with Final Fantasy 9. So I would be like from the beginning, all great Seattle, whoop whoop. From the beginning and just play until I died basically. Because like it can't save. So once I died, like there's no reloading. It is what it is.
Oh man. I remember those days, and I remember how crucial it was to have like a memory card and like multiple of them.
Yep.
Depending on how much you played and everything. And oh man, I can't now. We're spoiled now.
Yeah. Oh, entirely.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Like legitimately, any I'd say Gen Z, Gen X, whatever they're called. You guys have it lucky.
Yeah. Like you just save right to your hard drive. Like what?
It's like a cloud.
Yeah.
Not even
backup.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to, you could put your USB into it and put it on there too. But I mean, like you have 3 ways to save.
Yeah. Man. But so you have the PlayStation 2 from there. Where did you go from there?
So yeah, 64, PlayStation 2, GameCube, then like PS3, PS4, PS5. I got the Wii mainly just because Wii Fit. My mom was living with my mom at the time, so she's like, "Yeah, once you get a little fit," I'm like, "Here, mom, I'll get the Wii Fit for you." So I got that. She probably used it twice. But yeah, I kind of like just stayed with. Since then, I pretty much kind of stayed with the PlayStation just because I was more RPG-ish, and they just had more of the RPGs that were onto it. And not that Switch doesn't. I just don't like handheld, and so that's just me. Like my eyes hurt too much when I'm staring at this small screen. And
my hands hurt. I don't know if my hands are like too big for it, but sometimes holding like it for too long, like they start to get like they get like achy and stuff.
It reminds me. I also had like the old Game Gear as well. Sega's first portable, where you had to have like 9 AA batteries inside of it.
Really?
You needed a lot of batteries, and it would only last you like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, wow. No.
So yeah,
I didn't have that because if when I can remember, it was like the size of a brick.
Yeah, and it was heavy as well. So I remember, me holding like the screen's like this big, and like my eyes would hurt on that. So I just got trauma from that. So I can't do any handhelds anymore.
No, yeah, I agree too. I've always been more of a PlayStation fanboy just because I differentiate it too between what I'm playing. I always felt that like sports games and first person shooters, they were always better on Xbox. The controller works so much better with those games. And then anything single player I would do on PlayStation, which is primarily what I play. Yep. Also,
well, I did buy a 360 because they had Tales of Vesperia, which RPG, love the Tales series, and I'm like, I want to put this. And one of my friends at the time, his Xbox Red Ring of Death, so he sent it back.
Me and my brother ran through like 3.
That was his second, and he was a manager at GameStop, so he was just like, again. And so I was like, hey, like I literally just bought an Xbox. Do you want one? Because he didn't have a PlayStation at the time. I'm like, hey, do you like borrow my PlayStation while I'm using the Xbox? Oh yeah, sweet. So we did that. We switched up everything, and I got Fable, I got Tales of Vesperia, and I got Star Ocean 4: Last Hope. And completely cleared Vesperia. I got all 1,000 achievements on that. Loved that game. It's fantastic. And then got like halfway through Fable and just fell out of it. Like it just wasn't hitting the things that they usually hit. Then with Star Ocean Last Hope, oh man, that game. So I got a good like 10, 14 hours into it. Then I was going through this dungeon, went through all of it. It's good like 3 hours. There's a little save point. I'm like, oh, no, treasure chest. I'm like, oh, let me get the little treasure chest before I save. Open the box, game freezes.
No.
Yes, game freezes, and I just turn it off. I never played Xbox again.
Wow. I wouldn't. Yeah. That was the only bad thing. When you saw that, it's funny because it has a name for it, and it was so prominent at the time that they called it the Red Ring of Death. And literally every time me and my brother saw that thing, we were like furious. Like at that point, they had a program where you could just send it in, and they would send it back to you. But eventually, you're gonna get it
Yeah,
again.
and at the same time, like it took a month to get back.
Yeah.
So like, so you were out playing games for a month, and
What is it that meme of the guy that's just standing in like a empty pool?
just waiting. Yep.
Yeah, just waiting. That's me and my brother just waiting for the system to come back. So with I'll give you two options unless you want to answer both. But what system stood out to you, and what was like your favorite system, and then what was a particular game that was maybe your favorite or genre or franchise?
So PlayStation 2, by far, I feel like is the best system that I played, mainly because it was easy to make games. So they were churning out
Yes,
games left and right, and it was backwards compatible. That's what really sold me on the PlayStation 2 because, hey, I'd never had a PlayStation 1. So now I can still play all those games that I missed on PlayStation 1, which is my thought process. Very smart of them to do with the PS5 now. So all those people that might have skipped PS4 or there's a game that came out last year, they're like, oh, I'm going to get PS5 though. I don't want to like, oh, no, just play on your PS5. Same kind of thing with the PS2, and they were still making PS1 games while the PS2 was still in production, different things. So you could still like, hey, our team isn't ready for the PS2s, but we're really solid on the PS1, so we can still go make some of those games. So like for 100%, like PS2, I feel like just was big because even if you look at it now online, they had like over 1,000 games came out on that system, and it's just that's insane.
Is it still the highest selling console ever? Or
It is, but like PS5's on track to like get close to it.
I thought it was wasn't the Wii?
Maybe.
Didn't the Wii beat it?
Maybe I would say, or maybe the Switch nowadays too, because the Switch is up there.
But I do 100% agree with you. PS2 was my favorite, just because the amount of different games, franchises, everything that came out for it.
And they were innovating a lot too.
Yeah.
Because since games took a year, maybe two to make, they could try out a lot of things. Nowadays, they kind of can't because it takes 5 to 10 years to make a game. So they can't really take risks anymore.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and took a good 2 years after it was released to finally for it to be good. And it's just like that's what it is nowadays. It's like you have to do the tried and true formulas because it takes so long to make the games. Back then, this game bombed. Whatever, it was a year. Okay, cool. Let's make another one. What do we learn from it? All right, cool. We learn not to do this. Got it.
Let's give it another shot.
Basically, and it was just like, and they could reuse assets, but not like make it so obvious. Everything nowadays they need to reuse assets because it just takes so much time to make the assets. So,
now franchise or genre.
like depending like on your RPG wise, I like the Tales of series. They've been kind of lacking in my opinion these last couple of them, but I still whenever a new one comes out, I'm gonna jump on it and play it. Your Final Fantasies, I was not a fan of 15. I was not a fan of 13. 13 when you played all 3 games, I'm like, okay, now this feels like an actual like complete game now with how the story was. I hated Snow in the first game. I loved him by the end of it though. I'm like, this guy is a great guy. Like, oh my god, I love this guy. Hated him in the first game. 15 was just
13 was kind of. I mean, 15 was kind of.
It's only I haven't finished it. I literally get to the same. I've tried it 3 times. I've gotten to the same point and I haven't finished it because I'm just like, I'm just done. Just done.
The last thing that you mentioned on your list was Cosmere.
The Cosmere. So the Cosmere is a bunch of books by Brandon Sanderson. He has some of his note to fame nowadays. He helped finish the Wheel of Time series, and then he has the number 1 and number 2 biggest Kickstarter campaigns out there. So during the pandemic, he was bored basically
Mm-hmm.
and wrote four secret books that were like off of his like trajectory for his actual novels and everything. And he put a Kickstarter campaign together to be like, hey, so we just need help funding to actually put these books out to the world. And he was asking for like $100,000. He ended up making like 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, and like that was in a span of like 2 days. Like all his fans just like kicked him, was like jumped into it. I jumped on late. I just finally got his books 4 or 5 months ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a giant backlog of like stuff I can jump into, which is great for me because I'm a binger. Like even with anime shows or anything, like I wait till like it's the series is done, then I watch all of it.
Yeah, I do notice that about you because well,
Mm-hmm.
actually, if you've seen something, we're like, no, I'm waiting for it to end.
Yeah, what episode's on? Yeah, no, I'm still waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's one of those all the time. So being able to just like jump into a giant chunk of everything, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, here we go. So he has these books, the Mistborn series and also the Stormlight Archives. Those are his two like main ones, and he has some like single books here and there that are
Mm-hmm.
set in the same universe. So in this universe, there, was a god back in the day. Then these people killed that god, and they all got a part of that god's power, and they all kind of scattered, and that happened, like 10,000 years ago or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Now we're just on these different planets, following these different people, but they all kind of have their own unique magic systems on which planet they're on, type of thing. Like in one of them, in Mistborn, they're able to like burn metals. So you're born with the power or you're not,
Mm-hmm.
and you're either able to do one of those powers or all of those powers. It's kind of like a one or all thing.
Mm-hmm.
And on those powers, they have there's a push and a pull on them. So there's one where you can push on metal, like
Mm-hmm.
push on like iron, or you can pull on the metal. So you can pull that metal towards you, or if it's a big thing, you can pull yourself towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have like emotional ones. So I can push an emotion down from you. Like if you're angry, I can just make you calm, like push that anger down, or I can riot your anger and make you even more, and just bring that up inside of you. So you have those type of like little powers that people can play on each other, and they can make themselves stronger,
Mm-hmm.
make their eyesight better, stuff like that all the time. Very unique type of magic system. I'm like, it's very cool. Like I never really thought of a magic system that way. Most of the time, you think Tolkien, elf magic, and just fireball, toss stuff. So doing this type of stuff
Mm-hmm.
was wow, pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Great story as well. He's a world builder. He goes into if the book's 300 pages, 250 pages is about the world that they're living in,
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. Like you really get into that world and what's
Feel like
happening.
you're living in
Yeah,
it.
and what those characters are doing inside that world. In the last 50 pages, everything happening that's been building up the entire
Mm-hmm.
book gets tossed down into it.
Mm-hmm.
So tons of those, like in the Mistborn series, there's a single trilogy, then there's another four books after that, like set 300 years later. Then they have the Stormlight Archive, which were his big books. They're 1,200 pages each for each book.
Mm-hmm.
I currently have four of them. The fifth one comes out in December of this year. So they're these giant books, and same thing, so much world building.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're stuck on this continent and in this really planet continent, what we know of, and basically a Category 5 hurricane happens every 2 weeks, every week or so,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're outside in this hurricane, you're pretty much dying because like boulders are being tossed around and they're gonna smack you and everything. So it's deadly, deadly, deadly. So they've built their cities and their towns that way, where it's always coming like in the circle around the planet. So they know it's coming from the eastern direction. So they'll build up walls in the eastern area and leave like the west side open. So that's how everything kind of got pushed over and made that way. And what's also interesting is this kind of hurricane storm has power inside of it. So they use gems as their light source and their power
Mm-hmm.
source. So you use like basically in the form of electricity. So this storm rejuvenates those gems. So they put their gems outside, and the storm rejuvenates them. So they can then shine and do whatever they need to do and everything. So that was also kind of an
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Like it never there's a hurricane that's
Yeah.
beneficial at the same time, is super deadly. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
And
And
I
yeah,
think so that the fact that they use something that's causing so much issues and then turn into something that's like helping them, I
yeah,
think that's pretty wicked that they
yeah.
could do. And so, just from my knowledge, so Cosmere is the name of the franchise, or
The universe is
oh,
the
okay,
Cosmere that all these
okay,
planets are in.
oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that makes so much more sense now. And because when I first saw it, I was like, man, that's weird. And it's cool that you brought that up because one of the last one I did with my friend Alex, he was actually telling me about the whole Dune
Doing more, yeah.
franchise and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it's weird because most people, they think of like book franchises, they think about like Hunger Games, they think about Harry Potter, they think about like Divergent, and then
Yep.
there's ones like Cosmere
Yep.
that is it's
Like he has no like Hollywood ties. Like he's been trying. Like he has like an update every week that he does. And like 2 weeks ago he was in Hollywood pitching more of his ideas to get something picked up from Hollywood to other. He really wants to do live action stuff. A lot of his fans want more of animation just because how the magic systems are. They feel like it'll translate better with animation. But live action, you get more fans in the scenario. More people are
Yeah.
willing to see live action than a cartoon, unfortunately.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
people will shut it off just when they see the
Yep. Oh, it's a cartoon. I'm not watching this type of
Yeah.
scenarios. And like his books are young adult towards very adult. In the Stormlight Archive ones, literally you follow a slave, and he would they're called bridge runs is what he does, and him and his Bridge 4 group, they carry these giant bridges on their backs, and they just run. There's a chasm. They put a bridge down. The army goes across the bridge. They go across to pick up the bridge. It's the same thing because there's a place where there's just multiple chasms everywhere. Well, they're an attacking army as well. So the attacking army sees these people carrying bridges that takes this army across. What are they going to do? They aim for the bridges.
Yeah.
So like these slaves, these convicts, these whatever were put on these bridge crews to die, plain and simple. So like they would go out there and maybe one of them would come back, and that's it. So like literally that's his life.
Yeah.
For a long time, he's on this bridge crew, and it's just like he's trying to make it better. And finally, there's one point where he does, but it fucks over the army, and you can't screw over the army. Like your whole job is to die
for them.
Yeah, it's like your job is to distract them against my trained officers. You're supposed to die.
Yeah. You shouldn't have came back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets punished, and it's just like, what? It's like, yeah. So he's just like, how am I going to survive? Like, he's trying to live, but he can't make his life better because it distracts from like his role basically in the army. And it's just like, so he has to come up with a way to still survive, but still save himself and save his other people that he wants to save and his crew, because he tries to make them as like a bit of a family, because they all know they're gonna die any second whenever that alarm goes off and they have to go out there.
You're basically okay. This could be the last time I'm coming out here.
Like, and they go out there with just wearing like leather, like there's no armor or anything on them too.
Sucks.
So yeah, so they're wearing just basically clothes, running, and while everyone else is armored up. That's why they shoot them, because they don't have armor on.
Yeah,
like when
like
they go after this.
You would think that if you needed the fucking bridge in the first place, you would think you would. One, okay, I get you send them out there to die and stuff, but at least protect them somewhere.
Well, yes and no. One, there's multiple bridges too. So there's like 10 of them going out at once.
Oh, and they only need one to go out?
Basically, they just need, as long as one of them gets there, the army can get across to where that other army is. So they have that aspect. Also, if the bridge is armored up and my shots aren't hitting the bridge, well, then for sure I'm just going to go for the officers then.
Yeah.
Because, whatever, like these bridge crew people, cool. Well, let me get the actual trained people, because they're the ones that are going to fight once they get over here. So.
Oh, that makes sense.
Damn. Yeah. It's very and that's why I like his books too, because they're very smart. It's one of those things of like, this is actually, these are battle tactics.
Yeah.
These are legit battle tactics that if you're in this world, this is kind of what you would do. And of course, in that world, like, that's not how all the armies are. So you have your different factions, and they're all struggling with the high princes themselves or bickering with each other and all that fun stuff. But it gets very serious, and this main character, struggles through PTSD and just doubts, gets survivor syndrome. Like, why am I always the one alive? Why do I not die? He almost commits suicide multiple times. And it's just like one of those things where, like, crap. At the same time, there's this whole magic system that's out there too that some of the people kind of get, and it's like, wow, yeah, like magic, and like they're able to fly, but yet we're still talking about suicide and PTSD, and it's just like, crap. Yeah.
Like merging like some of the aspects of like real life or reality that we live in with fantasy. I think that's pretty wicked. Anybody that can do something like that.
Yeah, and he does it. I feel like he does it really well too. Like he's written 16 books now, type of thing, and that's like some of his secret books were little side stories he had in his brain that are part of his little Cosmere universe. They're set on a completely different planet. Like there's one planet that they have 13 moons, and on these moons they drop spore pollens, and if the spore pollen gets wet, something will happen. And most of the time it's going to be deadly. Like there's this yellow or green one that if it gets wet, it just spores out and vines will grow on you and like suffocate you because it's just a spontaneous growth. Well, being wet, aka your saliva, your tears, it's like if they get any of that on you, you're dead.
Not even that. How do you wash it off of you?
Yeah.
You
But
know?
yeah. So silver can kill it, and that's the only real way to kind of like detox yourself is by having silver, or you just make sure like, you wear a mask at all
Oh
times.
wow.
And it's just like that's very interesting. That's a unique world that's living there. And their sea is the pollen. So it's like they don't actually have a sea, it's just the pollen being built up. And they were able to make ships on that can go around it.
Wow, that's
So
insane.
it's very cool. It's very interesting. And then you have one that he just made randomly. It's called The Frugal Way of Surviving Medieval England type of thing, where many years in the universe we found parallel universes, and there's companies out there that have staked claims on these parallel universes. Well, some of these parallel universes, they haven't advanced as much as us. Well, they now took like 1,000 of the ones that were just stuck in the medieval times, and you can buy an access to go into it and do whatever you want in there. You want to be a cure-all medic and come in there with whatever, with your knowledge of the future, go right ahead. If you want to just fight wars, go right ahead.
Do it.
And it's like, you own it now. You own this dimension. And it's just like, it's pretty interesting. And just, that was just the concept of the story. It's like, cool, yeah, you're a guy nowadays that has augmented, like, you have steel bones and everything like now. You have a little computer in your brain, and you go back to medieval England.
I think what I like about this some more before we move on is the fact that each thing that you've told me about within this whole universe, each have been so different, and so it's such an interesting base for like a story.
Yep.
And just from the little things you're describing, I'm like, oh my god, that really does sound like super developed and like super, like he took time, and the fact that his brain can just think of so many things to like build a world about.
Yep.
Instead, and even though they're the same franchise, instead of doing like the vanilla route where you're making like a trilogy of the same book and just reusing the same stuff over, this motherfucker's doing like different things.
Like completely different magic systems, which are just like super cool. Then you're like, yeah, so different worlds are extremely different worlds. And then they're all kind of connected a little bit. They have what he calls there's like 3 different planes, really. Like the physical plane, the one we all live on, the cognitive realm, the mental realm is like our mental image of each other, or like the mental images of what the plants are and stuff like that are in that realm. Then there's the spiritual realm, which no one really knows about except for God type of thing, and like no one can even get to unless you die. And so it's pretty interesting how like he's used that as his basis for his magic systems, and then kind of like created things that will also work using those 3 planes of existences and everything. So you have like some foundations while also being creative and being unique to each little realm as
Which
well.
I think is fucking awesome. So to anybody out there that's watching this, within that universe, the Cosmere universe, are there any of the books that you would recommend?
If you're first starting off, Warbreaker and the Mistborn series, I would recommend as like introductory books. His first book that he wrote, Elantris, is even he says it all the time. Like it's not his best work. It's his first published book. So he was still learning, and it took me a while to get through it. I read like 90% of it, then I stopped, and then 3 months later, I finally finished the last 20 pages of the book. I'm like, I need to finish this thing. Then I was like, okay, like it just wasn't there. Then I read Mistborn. I'm like, okay, here we go. Yes. And like that's just the one that got me into it for sure.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Make sure you guys check that out, Cosmere.
Yep.
And the author is Brandon Sanderson.
Yep. Brandon Sanderson.
Awesome. Make sure you guys check that out. And that takes us through all your favorite parts. Next part that we're going to cover is going to be the favorite part of the week. Usually we'll talk about something that's positive, or something that's relating to what's going on right now. As I always mention on the podcast, it's very hard to find some positive news out there right now, so I usually just talk about something that I like. And what I wanted to touch base on, and I don't know if my brother mentioned it to you this week, but we actually watched fucking WrestleMania.
Well, I know you guys were doing that Sunday night. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was really banging, because I haven't seen like wrestling in like maybe 20 years.
Yep.
Because I used to be really like into it when I was younger.
Yeah. Stone Cold and the Rock days. Oh yeah.
All of our family used to watch it. We used to get like pay-per-views, go to like cousins' houses and watch pay-per-views. We used to get them like in my house. We used to get them at grandparents' house. We were like super hardcore into it. We used to play the fucking video games on like 64 and stuff like that. And I don't know what it's been, what's happened recently, but I guess it's. I don't want to say it's made a resurgence because it's still been popular and it's been growing in popularity, but it's just caught my mind a little bit more because I've seen more outlets talking about it and like advertising it, and so I came up to my brother. And I know he keeps up with it periodically, and I was like, you know what? Why don't we fucking get WrestleMania? And he was like all aboard, all about it and
100%.
stuff.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
Kobe.
so we went, we did it, we did the whole thing on Peacock, and we watched it, and it was awesome. It was weird because I'm not into the all the storylines going on, and my brother was explaining it to me, and it was so cool just going in and like watching these storylines develop and stuff like that. And then I one thing that I didn't know how I was gonna react to was gonna be the actual matches themselves,
Hmm.
because growing up, being older now, and knowing that some of this is scripted and stuff like that, and wondering if it would have the same effect. And I thought it was super fucking cool.
Hmm.
And I just shout out to have you did you even watch when you were younger, or
Yeah,
do
like
you?
the Stone Cold, The Rock, and
Yeah.
like that's pretty much when Mick Foley started like kind of being more of an
Hmm.
announcer back to soon. That's kind of like when I started falling
Hmm.
off of it, basically.
Yeah. So with that being said, like I'd like to give a shout out to the WWE for putting on like a great show. Everybody knows The Rock was on it and stuff. Fucking Cody Rhodes finally got his fucking belt that he's been trying to search for.
Who?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's
who?
what I
Yeah,
said that's what I
yeah,
said at the beginning too. And then my brother explained it to me, everything to me, and him finishing his story and stuff. But it was so cool, and I know they're in a different like regime or era right now, with what's his name, Triple H taking over.
yeah. Oh, yep.
Triple H being taken over as a chief content creator. Everything that happened with Vince McMahon and him, stepping away
Mm-hmm.
and everything with everything that's going on. But from what I understand, like their ratings haven't been higher, and that the amount of people that participated or attended WrestleMania was like off the charts. They
Mm-hmm.
did it in a stadium where the Philadelphia Eagles play, and they did 2 nights there, and it was packed like both nights. So
Yeah.
shout out to them. But that takes us from my favorite part of the week. I just wanted to highlight that was something that I thought was pretty cool this week, and again, I was super appreciative of it. And it was one of the me and my brother got to actually spend like some like good time together and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was like
Good
super
brotherly time
right.
together.
He was like super ecstatic about it and stuff after, and so was I. So I thought that was pretty cool. So this takes us to the last part of the show, which is going to be some of my favorite questions that I ask people. The first one is gonna could be a loaded question. It's a 5-part question.
Ooh.
So even though I
Should I write
asked
this
one
down?
question, you can if you want. So with every person that comes on here, I ask them the same 2 questions. The first one is going to be, what's your favorite of your 5 senses? So you have your sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, if I said that all in the correct order. But I'm not asking you which of the 5 is your favorite. I'm asking you what's your favorite of each and why. And you can start in any order that you would
You
like
mean
to.
like what's my favorite thing about sight? What's my favorite thing about smell?
What's your favorite
Okay.
sight? What's your
Okay.
favorite sound?
Um.
And why? The why is the important part.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
I
give you one first, and then you can go off in whatever order you want after. Taste.
what is that? I'm like taste, huh? I'm not a big foodie at all. Like I eat boxed macaroni and cheese quite almost every day. So it's like taste is never like a big thing for me. But I mean I do enjoy like I use this powdered energy drink nowadays, and like they have some good flavors.
Mm-hmm.
So having those unique flavors is really nice. Like they have like orange and like the rocket pop from back in the
Mm-hmm.
day of like those rocket pop bicycles
Mm-hmm.
you'd have. Fantastic, tastes just like
The
it.
red, white, and blue ones.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it was so good. And like that's one thing I'll say. Having those nice tastes that, especially nowadays, you can still get those same flavors, but not having that object.
Mm-hmm.
If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So I like that about taste now, especially like nowadays modern era where, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can get a good unique flavor without having whatever that object was because it might be hard to get or you just can't get it or whatever the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Smell. Uh, um, One thing I like about smell, which many people might not know, it's the one sense that triggers nostalgia the most.
Mm-hmm.
So when you smell something, it brings up those memories, like
Mm-hmm.
immediately about where you first might have gotten that smell.
Mm-hmm.
And like going into a room and smelling like cinnamon will immediately like bring me back to making cookies with my mom back in the day and stuff like that.
Like ginger snap
Yeah,
cookies? Really?
yeah.
I just
So because
gasped.
she was a like I said, she had a little daycare back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
so she would be bake her own stuff with all the
Mm-hmm.
kids and make her own food all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember like coming home from like school and
Mm-hmm.
she's already in the kitchen making food. Like, oh, like going there and doing that. So it's always fun.
Damn, so cinnamon. That's
Hmm.
awesome. I think that's fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
like favorite cookie, peanut butter cup. I
Mm-hmm.
just love peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing ever. But like coming in and having just like those cinnamon candles type of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like oh, like just brings me back to
Mm-hmm.
being 4, 5, 6, and like coming home from school and smelling it again, like
That's
oh,
pretty
and
wicked, man.
being able to like using having little cookie cutters and everything too, making oh yeah, it was fucking just great. It
Mm-hmm.
was great. Hearing just music. Um,
Give me something specific.
I know. Well, I know specifically
Mm-hmm.
music. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's I didn't appreciate it younger. Because like when I would play video games, I'd have
Mm-hmm.
some other CD playing, but
Mm-hmm.
nowadays I will have a song will kind of kick on, and same thing, it'll remind me of when I played this game with that CD playing type
Mm-hmm.
of scenario. And listening to soundtracks now. Um, Same thing, like I said, I would play a game, having like some other CD on, but nowadays like I
Mm-hmm.
am going through this open world and listening to this music, then I'll just listen to the
Mm-hmm.
music eventually. I won't even like be doing anything in the game anymore. I'm like, this is just really good.
Is there a particular because it's some now in watching like reviews for like games and stuff like that, or even for like anime, a lot of them talk about and they have this great soundtrack in the
Hmm.
back, which when you watch them you appreciate them because you're like, oh, this sounds so cool. Is there a particular like, soundtrack from like an anime or video game that like stuck with you?
Um, the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I got like the special edition, so I got like a CD of that, so I would
Mm-hmm.
listen to that all the time. And then the Vision of Escaflowne back in the day, kind of the
I
same
remember
thing.
Phone, yeah.
It was the movie, not the series. That I
Mm-hmm.
same thing. I kind of got the special edition. It came with the soundtrack, and just those were like my first instances of actually just having a soundtrack CD that
Mm-hmm.
I would just listen to. I convinced one of my teachers to play the Escaflowne soundtrack while we were taking tests,
Mm-hmm.
because he's like, because he would listen to like, oh, these are all fantastic. So he would just like put them on while the class is going on. I'm like, yeah. I was the only one that knew they were from an anime. I'm like, yes, I love this.
He probably thought he was playing like classical music and
Well,
stuff.
he knew it was from an anime. At
Oh,
the same
okay.
time, like it was classical music,
Mm-hmm.
so just like yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
someone was like the fight scene, so
Mm-hmm.
like just those drum beats kind of getting into
So
it.
everybody's trying to ace their test, and this music's going on in the
And
background.
yeah, and there's the fight scenes happening basically.
It's funny, not to veer off from you finishing the questions, but you mentioned that my brother used to tell me all the time that there was a teacher that we had at Poinciana High School
Hmm.
that he would play the safety song like all the time. You can dance if you want to, winner.
Didn't
Like he
have
would
that
play that all
teacher.
the time. Like, and he used to tell me about it all the time. That there was a teacher that they used to play that, and
That's
he would like play it every
hilarious.
time they did something. So, but that's
That's three.
yep.
Uh,
You have.
so sight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm one of those guys that has like an eye phobia. I can't put eye drops. I can't do contacts.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, like
Okay.
if I see like in a movie someone's getting a needle in their eye, I close my eyes. I can't. Like, I'm just. It's just one of those things with me.
Hmm.
So like, don't lose my eyesight. That's my like me being able to see is like a big
Hmm.
thing for me. And I even have like an astigmatism in this eye slightly,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, you should get lenses. I'm like,
Hmm.
no.
So what's that site for you?
So I mean, like it's super important. Just being able to just see, interact, being able to read. I read subtitles all the time
Hmm.
from subtitled anime, from tons of books to
Hmm.
see. I know you guys can't, but you see
Hmm.
my entire books
Hmm.
over there. And like I was that kid that read
Hmm.
all the time on the
Hmm.
school bus ride in school. So not being able to like read like that anymore would be super heartbreaking.
I, I I actually really really like that answer. I when I think and this is I think the genius of doing stuff like this is because when I think of sight, I think of a sight. I think of seeing like a landscape
Mm-hmm.
or like the sky, the ocean, but I wouldn't think of it as a use thing where the most valuable thing to you right now is being able to read and be able to take that information. And it's weird because I don't think about it because there's some people that would kill for that
Yeah.
because they
Like,
can't.
I'm also that guy too, where I read signs. I'm like, people don't read signs. I read signs.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that like, we park someplace. I know where we're parked. Brian, where are we at? We're at blah 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 blah. Cool, thank
Yeah.
you. It's just like that.
Hmm.
Like I've taken that information all the
Hmm.
time, and it took me a while to realize that a lot of people don't read signs. So it took me a while
Yeah.
to read that.
Especially on the road.
Yeah, like I do valet parking usually, and it's just like we have a sign right in front of people that say the prices. I'm like, how much is it? And I just like point to the sign that's literally right next to them. I'm like, well, it's overnight. It's this. Oh, I didn't even see that there. It's like you're literally standing right next to it, and how did you not see that?
No, that's probably one of my favorite answers I've gotten for sight is like
I mean,
text.
for sure. When I was in Montana, like I'm not sure if your brother ever showed you the pictures
A
that I was
couple.
taking, and just it's beautiful out there. And like, yeah, not being able to take in that would suck as well. And but it's just like not being able to read and taking that information like that. That was one thing that I would miss, and that I'm very grateful that I have a sight for.
No, that's fucking awesome.
Then touch. Ooh.
Last one. I see you rubbing that table.
I know. getting those textures, and it's funny because like I'm somewhat talking like, yeah, you could have braille with the feeling as well, and it's not one. I never really experienced it to the way that people that don't have sight have experienced it, but I don't think I'd be able to enjoy that as much. But this might be a little weird. I like being a little bit cold. I like having in a long sleeve shirt where I can scrunch it up, or I can put it down. I love being able to wear just these little light sleeve and just feeling that little chill in my arms and in my back and everything. Being too hot growing up in Florida, too hot, you're sweaty all the time.
Yeah.
That does not feel right. Being born in Wisconsin, it's too cold. That doesn't feel right. Give me that like 50 to 70 degree swing. Perfect.
Have you found that here in Seattle?
Yeah.
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 I'm not gonna lie, the weather here is kind of.
It's not. It's at least in downtown Seattle, we don't get the snow too much, so it doesn't get too cold. Like it did dip in the teens, single digits every once in a while, but like I said, I was in Montana during the winter. We had negative 27 at one point, and that's cold.
Yeah, I
That
wouldn't
is
have.
cold.
Even living in Chicago, it didn't get that bad. At least the time frame that I was there.
Yeah, and so like I don't know why. Yeah, I like feeling cold, like that feel.
That's I think that's pretty cool because coming from the same situation, coming from Florida, I mean, like born in Boston, similar to you, born in Wisconsin.
Yep.
We both grew up though in Florida.
And cold, but we were living in Florida.
Yeah, and it's weird. I can't stand being hot now.
Yeah.
Like I would rather be like bundled up than fucking sweating my ass off as soon as I walk out of a door.
It's one of those things where you can always put on more layers of clothing. There's only so much you can take off when you're hot. So it's like when you finally get to your skivvies, you're like, like, what else am I gonna do?
Yeah. It's true though. There, to anybody that has been to like Florida or specifically to Orlando, and I've seen memes about it before, and I thought it was just me that thought this, but whenever you walk out of that fucking door when you leave MCO, and you're going to get picked up by your car, that fucking hot, humid air. Oh man, it's like getting hit in your face with like heat and stuff. But so no, I completely agree with that.
Like my mom is not retired. She lives in the upper parts in the mountain areas of Arizona, so it's kind of the same thing. Doesn't get too hot or too cold up there. She's always wanted to move back to Florida. Wanted to move back to Florida. Yeah, she loved Clearwater Beach. She loves it there. Which is, if I ever did go to Florida, it would be Clearwater because it was just beautiful there. She went to go visit friends last year. She came back, not going to Florida anymore. I'm like, what? That's all you've been talking about, moving back there. I forgot. Oh my God, I couldn't breathe. It was so the humidity. I'm like,
yeah, it's true because just unlike Arizona where it's just
dry heat, it's just heat. Yeah,
that humidity is what gets you out in Florida. So
you're just constantly like I would work at 6:30 in the morning, and like I'm already sweaty, and the walls are sweaty, and it's like. It's just there's no point wearing deodorant, but it's like you still do, but it's just like,
no, yeah, that's what Florida does to you. And yeah, I can't. I'm good for now. Like I like seasons and stuff, so I'll take this for now. But that leads us to our last question of the day for you, before we end this magical podcast that we've had. Is What's something that you've done recently that you're proud of, and if not recently, just in general?
Um, ooh. Well, so trying to get more into the voice acting stuff and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I've been taking like workshops with different people, and I did one recently with a writer, casting director for like a commercial agency, and like in those type of workshops, you pretty much are just given like some sides, which is the things you're reading,
Mm-hmm.
and like ended up doing one, and I felt really good doing it. It's one of those
Mm-hmm.
things like as an actor, you constantly struggle and struggle. You're like, it's always, am I doing it right? Am I
Mm-hmm.
doing it well? Are they gonna enjoy it? It's always like those kind of like fears and insecurities always kind of kick in, and until you get kind of like used to it and get those experiences and you get
Mm-hmm.
better, that you just go fuck off and just do whatever you think
Mm-hmm.
you. Hey, this feels right. I'm gonna do
Mm-hmm.
this. Ended up like getting to a good scene with him, and I actually like really liked what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Recorded myself and like, actually, like I really like this. We did. He gave me some critiques, did like a little feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, gave him a different direction of it. Liked it as well. Really enjoyed it. A couple days later, I have like a coaching that I do every 2 weeks, and had my coach listen to it, and he was just right away. I was like, Brian, like, yeah, this is good. Like, this is good. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes. Seems like I'm like you're learning. I'm getting there. I'm like getting
Uh-huh.
to that point of like, those little insecurities are pretty much almost all gone. Of course, you're
Mm-hmm.
still constantly gonna have those, but getting that like, this felt good. This felt good.
Like
Then
kind of
having
like
it
validation a little bit.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that's for a lot of actors. That's what I just give
Mm-hmm.
me. Let me know like what I can improve on. Let me know what I actually did good in. Like, give me that.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. It's like,
Finally.
yeah, it's one of those things where you get those little moments
Mm-hmm.
that just stick with you. So I had
Mm-hmm.
like that little moment
Mm-hmm.
that reminded me of a previous moment that I had. One of my teachers, who's a voice actor as
Mm-hmm.
well, did lots of theater. He did Toby's voice in Naruto in the dubbing. That's like
Oh,
one of his,
really?
yeah. So like I studied with him for over 2 years and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in this like just scene study class, and one of my classmates who I love working with. She's really intelligent. She's a writer as well. Me and her will talk about things all the time, and we were finally able to do a scene together. And we picked this one scene that was very dark and very twisted, which is so up my alley. I love those things. And like we had this one of our teachers would direct us and critique us, and we did kind of worked on this for a good like couple weeks. And then we performed it in front of the whole class, in front of the whole studio, basically. And that teacher was there, the voice actor one. So we got done doing it, and at the end, he was just like, Brian, how did you get into that character? Like, how was it? And like, that wasn't a teacher asking a student a
Mm-hmm.
question. That was an actor asking another actor a
Yeah.
question. And it was just like, I remember that moment just being like, oh, and just like
Mm-hmm.
that validation thing of like,
Mm-hmm.
this guy who is established
Mm-hmm.
is like blown at the work I just did. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh,
I feel like that's that. And correct me if I'm wrong. There's like a feeling that you get when something like that happens. Like you actually get like a feeling, like the fuzzies and
yeah.
stuff like that. And it's
Yeah,
like,
the goosebumps,
mm-hmm.
everything, and just
Mm-hmm.
like you're on cloud nine. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like all that hard work
Mm-hmm.
you kind of done. It just
Mm-hmm.
all just like all that just melts,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just like you're there in that moment now with that one validation that just one person just gave you. You're
Mm-hmm.
just like, holy crap,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And even through like the conversations we have before we started recording, so it seems like those validations don't come often.
Yeah.
And some people, even like in regular life, like people don't know what sometimes giving that little like, hey, good job can do for
Yep.
somebody and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I'm glad that in a business where some of those things come so few off, like so few and far between, that you got that. Like, I feel like that's fucking
Yeah.
wicked because I don't know if I could do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. It's one of the things like when you're a casting director, you
Mm-hmm.
see 100 people sometimes
Mm-hmm.
for one role, and that role could just be 2 lines and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the time to email back everyone like, no, you didn't get it, but you did a good job, or hey, I think you need to work on. You can't give them that critique, so you just hear nothing.
Yeah.
So you only know if you did good is if you got an email going like, hey, yeah, come back in
A
for a
second, yeah.
retake or like for a second take, or like, hey, you got the role. That's the only time you know
And you
that you
might
did
not even
good.
know what was it about what you
Yep.
did that.
There's many times that got put on a veil, which is basically they like you a lot, but you didn't get the part. But if something goes wrong with this person, then they're gonna give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that you're available for this part just in
Mm-hmm.
case. Oh, okay, cool. And that happened to me so many times on commercials, and like getting to that point, you made it. You did everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why this other person made it, maybe because they look absolutely nothing like you. So they
Yeah.
wanted the other girl, the other person that's in this commercial with them, they don't look alike, so they want that, and you two look too similar alike, so they don't
Yeah.
want you together type of scenarios.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, like you still have those like, what did I do wrong? Like I was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like oh my god, like why didn't? Because
Mm-hmm.
you get those thoughts all the time.
Because we're all human. I mean,
Yeah,
you can have
exactly.
those.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, like you did absolutely everything right. They liked you. They
Mm-hmm.
put you all the way up there. It's just how you look is not what this person wanted,
Yeah.
or yeah, you look too similar to this person, or you don't look similar enough to this person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just randomly things like that
Mm-hmm.
that can happen. But at the same time, as an actor, you're just like, oh, what did I do wrong? I just
Yeah.
want to make it. I just want to do
Mm-hmm.
this thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. And like, to be honest with you, I'm proud that you do that too. Because I've always admired the fact that you do stuff like that. Because I think for a person to take themselves out there and put themselves in front of people to be judged in that type of manner takes a lot of balls. So
I just recently did for the company I work for. We had like a little leadership and training and
mm-hmm.
coaching for like all the managers out there, and the our main guy was like, "Hey, so what are some things that you guys struggle on?" And I immediately was just like, "Yeah, so when I have like a kind of a struggle employee or a bad employee, I write them off. Like I stop coaching or I
Mm-hmm.
stop trying to teach them because they're obviously not listening to me and they're not doing better. So like I just kind of like this is a
Mm-hmm.
wasted effort, so I don't want to do it anymore." And like three of the other people were like, damn, thank you for being honest like that. I would have never I'm like, sorry, actor, just like I am gonna put everything out there. You tell
Mm-hmm.
me what's working and what's not working. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's wrong, then oops, it's wrong. But like this is what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is something that I do. And like it might be right, it might be wrong, but this is something that I do. So
Yeah.
if this is the bad thing, let me know that's the bad thing and I'll correct
No, it's
it.
always better to be honest. So
Mm-hmm.
that's all a lot of people can only ask
Yeah.
for. But that brings us to the end of this journey, Brian. And now comes actually the real last question that I ask everybody. So after everything, how do you feel now
Oh, like about what?
about just the whole experience?
Oh, like it was a good time.
Cool,
Yeah, definitely fun.
awesome. I'm glad you had some fun doing it and stuff. I'm glad we got to talk about some things that you like. I specifically like your site answer. That's pretty wicked. And of course, we kicked it with the anime and the video
Yeah, of
games and
course.
stuff like that. But I appreciate you spending this time with me and doing this with me. Anything you want to like shout out or like advertise or say to the audience before you go or promote?
I mean, that's right now. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, like, hey, just being a listen, look out for
Mm-hmm.
me. Trying to get my foot out there for the more of the
Mm-hmm.
voice acting stuff. So all of a sudden, if you hear this voice somewhere out of a
Mm-hmm.
character, hey,
Which
it's working.
you do have a good voice though for this.
So people tell me, so I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but hey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very younger sounding, so I can get those like 18-year-old, young
Mm-hmm.
20, even very young to like the very 10 and 12-year-old range. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
very cool that I can get into this type of like voice style. So it just broadens what I
Mm-hmm.
can actually do, which is very nice.
Yeah. So don't be fooled by the voice. Mm-hmm. That's the lesson of that story and stuff. But again, thank you guys for being here with us for My Favorite Parts podcast. This was episode 6 with Mr. Bryan Adams. Brian, again, I appreciate you being here, and see you guys all next time. Bye.
Have a good one.